Admiral Kate Morrison stood at the large viewing window of the diplomatic ship. The stars looked peaceful out there, but she knew that peace would not last much longer. Her hands were steady as she watched the alien ships approach. 3 massive vessels, each one bigger than anything humans had ever built. Captain Ryan Blake walked up beside her. His face was tense. "Admiral, they're here," he said quietly. "The Zephyrian fleet just dropped out of hyperspace." Kate nodded. She had been expecting this moment for weeks. The Zephyrians had sent messages across the galaxy. They wanted to meet with humanity's leaders. They said they had important business to discuss. Kate knew it would not be good news. "How many ships?" she asked. 3 command vessels and about 50 escorts," Ryan replied. "They're not taking any chances." Dr. Lisa Parker joined them at the window. She was the team's expert on alien species. She had spent years studying the Zephyrians. "They always travel in large groups," she explained. "It's a show of power. They want us to know they're stronger than us." The communication system crackled to life. A rough voice spoke in broken human language. "Human vessel, you will prepare for boarding. The High Council wishes to speak." Kate walked to the communication panel. "This is Admiral Morrison. We welcome the Zephyrian delegation aboard our ship." "No," the voice said firmly. "You will come to us. We do not board weak vessels." Ryan's jaw tightened. Lisa shook her head. Kate remained calm. "Very well. We'll take a shuttle over." 20 minutes later, Kate, Ryan, and Lisa were walking through the corridors of the Zephyrian command ship. The aliens were tall, with gray skin and 4 arms. They moved with the confidence of a species that had conquered dozens of worlds. Their ship was impressive. The walls were made of some kind of metal that seemed to glow. The technology was clearly advanced. The Zephyrians led them to a large chamber. At the center sat 5 aliens on raised platforms. The one in the middle was clearly the leader. He was bigger than the others, with scars across his face and arms. This was War Marshal Vexthul. "So," Vexthul said, his voice echoing in the chamber, "these are the humans we have heard about." Kate stepped forward. "I am Admiral Kate Morrison, representing the United Human Colonies. We're honored to meet with the Zephyrian High Council." Vexthul laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Honored? You should be terrified." The other council members joined in the laughter. Kate noticed how they looked at her team, like they were looking at insects. "We have come to deliver a message," Vexthul continued. "Your species has spread too far into space. You have taken worlds that belong to stronger races. This ends now." Lisa stepped forward slightly. She had studied their body language. The way they held their forearms meant they were feeling superior. The way they moved their heads showed they were not interested in negotiation. "What exactly are you proposing?" Kate asked. Vexthul stood up. He was nearly 8 feet tall. "We are not proposing anything. We are telling you what will happen. You will abandon all human colonies beyond your home system. You will return to your small world and stay there." "And if we refuse?" Kate asked calmly. The chamber fell silent. The other council members leaned forward in their seats. Vexthul's expression grew dark. "If you refuse, we will destroy every human world. We will hunt down every human ship. Your species will be wiped from the galaxy." Ryan's hand moved toward his weapon, but Kate gave him a small gesture to stay calm. She had expected this. "How long do we have to consider your offer?" she asked. 72 of your hours," Vexthul replied. "After that, our fleets will begin the cleansing." He gestured to a wall panel. It lit up, showing images of space. Kate saw more ships than she could count, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They were positioned at the edge of human space, waiting. "We have 3,000 ships ready for war," Vexthul said proudly. "Your entire species has maybe 200 vessels. This is not a fair fight. This is an execution." The other council members made sounds that Kate assumed were laughter. They were enjoying this. "We have destroyed 47 species in the last century," another council member said. "Some fought back, some surrendered. All died in the end. Kate looked at the display showing the massive fleet. She looked at the confident aliens around her. She thought about the human colonies scattered across space. Millions of people living their lives, working, raising families, building futures. She thought about Earth, humanity's homeworld. The planet where her species had fought and struggled for thousands of years. Where they had survived ice ages and plagues and wars. Where they had learned to be survivors. 72 hours, she repeated. Yes, Vexthul said. Use that time to say goodbye to your species. Kate stood quietly for a long moment. The Zephyrians watched her, expecting her to beg or cry or show fear. Instead, she looked directly at Vexthul. Her voice was calm, but there was something in it that made even Ryan step back slightly. You want war? She said slowly. Then you've chosen death. The chamber fell completely silent. The council members stared at her. Vexthul's expression changed from amusement to confusion. Did you just threaten us? He asked. Kate smiled. It was not a warm smile. No, I made you a promise. The Zephyrians began laughing again, but it sounded forced now. Something about the humans' calm confidence bothered them. Take them back to their ship, Vexthul ordered. Let them spend their last days in peace. They walked back through the corridors. Lisa whispered to Kate. Admiral, they have 3,000 ships. Our entire fleet is maybe 200 vessels. Kate nodded. I know. Then how can we possibly fight them? Ryan asked quietly. Kate looked out a window at the stars. They think they know what humans are. They're about to learn they were wrong. The shuttle ride back to their ship was quiet. Kate was already making plans. The Zephyrians had made one critical mistake. They thought humans were like every other species they had conquered. They thought humans would fight like everyone else. They were wrong. General Alex Rodriguez sat in the emergency meeting room deep under the mountains of Colorado. The call from Admiral Morrison had arrived 3 hours ago. Now the most important people in human space were gathering around the table. Some were there in person. Others appeared as holograms from distant colonies. Director Susan Walsh placed a thick folder on the table. Her hands were steady, but Alex could see the tension in her eyes. She had been waiting for this day for 20 years. The Zephyrians have given us 72 hours, Alex said to the group. They want us to abandon every human world except Earth. If we refuse, they attack with 3,000 ships. Commander Jake Sullivan pulled up a star map. Red dots showed Zephyrian fleet positions. They surrounded human space like a noose. They're positioned at every major hyperspace route. No colony can escape if they decide to run. How many ships do we have? Asked Colonel Amy Foster from the Mars colony. Officially? 212 vessels, Jake replied. But that's not the real number. Susan opened her folder. Inside were documents marked with the highest security levels. Project. Prometheus has been active for 30 years. Every human ship, station, and colony has been built with hidden capabilities. Dr. Nathan Cross activated a holographic display. It showed a simple cargo ship. Then the image changed. Armor plates slid out from hidden compartments. Weapon ports opened along the hull. The peaceful merchant vessel became a warship in seconds. Every civilian ship can convert to military configuration in under 6 hours, Nathan explained. Mining ships become missile platforms. Passenger transports become troop carriers. Even space stations have hidden defenses. Amy leaned forward in her chair. How many ships are we really talking about? 8,437 vessels, Susan said quietly, plus another 12,000 automated defense drones disguised as maintenance robots and cargo containers. The room fell silent. Even Alex was surprised by the final numbers. Lieutenant Commander Ben Parker spoke from his hologram. He was stationed in Zephyrian space far from home. The sleeper program is ready too. We have agents on 47 Zephyrian worlds. They've been there for years, working normal jobs, learning their systems. What kind of sabotage can they do? Alex asked. Ben smiled. Every major Zephyrian military base has humans working in support roles. Janitors who know every security code. mechanics who service their ships, cooks who prepare their food. They think we're just harmless workers. Jake pulled up another display. This one showed Zephyrian ship designs. We've been studying their technology for decades. Their ships are powerful, but they have weaknesses. Their shields don't cover the engine ports. Their weapons overheat after sustained fire. Their communication systems use frequencies we can jam. Most importantly, Nathan added, they fight like every other species they've conquered. Formation, flying, predictable tactics. They've never faced an opponent that adapts quickly. Susan stood up and walked to the main display. The Zephyrians have conquered 47 species, but every one of those species fought the same way. Honor combat, face-to-face battles, rules of war. Humans don't fight with honor, Alex said, grimly. We fight to win. Amy brought up reports from the outer colonies. Our people are already moving to positions. The miners on Kepler Station have armed their drilling equipment. The farmers on New Iowa have turned their harvesters into mobile weapons. Everyone knows what to do. What about the timeline? Jake asked. Alex looked at his watch. We have 68 hours left. Phase 1 begins in 12 hours. All civilian. Ships start conversion to military configuration. Phase 2 starts in 24 hours. Our agents in Zephyrian space begin sabotage operations. Dr. Nathan Cross pulled up technical specifications. The Prometheus weapon systems are ready. Every human colony has been secretly building weapons for years. Particle beam arrays disguised as communication towers. Missile silos hidden under farms. Orbital defense platforms that look like solar collectors. The Zephyrians think we're a young species that got lucky with space travel, Susan said. They don't understand what we really are. Ben's hologram flickered as his signal was scrambled for security. I've been living among them for 5 years. They see humans as weak because we don't start fights. They think peaceful means helpless. They're about to learn the difference, Alex replied. Commander Jake Sullivan brought up historical files. Earth's history shows something interesting. Humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We've had world wars, civil wars, religious wars, resource wars. We've fought with sticks, swords, guns, tanks, and nuclear weapons. Other species fight for territory or resources, Amy added. Humans fight for survival. And when we fight for survival, we don't stop until the threat is completely eliminated. Susan activated a secure communication link. All colony commanders, this is Director Walsh. Project Prometheus is now active. Begin conversion protocols immediately. Across human space, the transformation began. On mining stations, workers pulled panels off cargo haulers to reveal missile launchers. On agricultural worlds, farmers drove their equipment into hidden underground facilities where weapons were attached. On passenger stations, families moved into protected areas while their homes became military bases. The Zephyrians had surveillance, ships watching some human colonies. They saw increased activity but assumed it was panic and evacuation preparations. They had no idea they were watching the largest military mobilization in galactic history. Dr. Nathan Cross reviewed the final preparations. Every human world now has 3 times more firepower than our intelligence reports claimed. Our ships can outmaneuver theirs. Our weapons can penetrate their shields. Our people are ready. Alex stood up from the table. The Zephyrians wanted to give us a choice, surrender or die. They forgot there was a third option. What's that? Amy asked. Alex looked around the room at the faces of humanity's military leaders. These were people whose ancestors had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. They carried the genetic memory of every human who had ever fought for their family's survival. Make them regret giving us the choice, he said. The meeting ended. Across human space, the final preparations continued. The Zephyrians were counting down the hours until humanity's surrender. They had no idea that humans were counting down the hours until war began. Humanity was about to show the galaxy what happened when you threatened the wrong species. Fleet Commander Zach IV stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human colony of New Boston grow larger on the screen. His 72 ships moved in perfect formation toward the planet. The humans had not responded to the ultimatum. Their time was up. Any sign of military resistance? He asked his weapons officer. None, Commander. We detect only civilian ships trying to evacuate. Cargo haulers, passenger transports, mining vessels. Nothing that can threaten us. Zakfor felt satisfied. This would be easier than he had expected. The humans were running away like frightened animals. Begin the attack. Destroy their orbital stations first, then target the fleeing ships. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire. Bright energy beams lanced out toward the human stations. But something strange happened. The first station they hit did not explode as expected. Instead, armor plating slid out from hidden sections. The station's communication array rotated and fired back. What was that? Zakfor demanded. Before his weapons officer could answer, more surprises came. The cargo hauler called New Frontier suddenly changed shape. Panels opened along its hull. Missile launchers emerged. Gun turrets unfolded from what had looked like storage containers. Captain Sam Torres stood on the bridge of the New Frontier as his ship completed its transformation. His crew had been waiting for this moment for months. They had practiced the conversion hundreds of times. All weapons online, reported his gunner. We have target lock on 3 Zephyrian ships. Fire everything, Sam ordered. The New Frontier had been disguised as a simple cargo ship. Now it revealed itself as a heavy assault vessel. Its missiles struck 2 Zephyrian ships before they could react. One exploded immediately. The other spun out of control, its engines damaged. Across the battle zone, the same transformation was happening. Every human ship was changing from civilian to military. The passenger transport Peaceful Journey opened weapon ports along its passenger decks. The mining ship Deep Digger revealed that its drilling equipment could also punch holes in enemy hulls. Major Linda Hayes watched from the bridge of her command ship as her squadron of mining drones surrounded a Zephyrian destroyer. The aliens had ignored the small robots, thinking they were harmless maintenance equipment. Execute swarm protocol, Linda ordered. The mining drones moved as one. They attached themselves to the Zephyrian ship's hull and began cutting through the armor with their mining lasers. Within minutes, they had opened the ship to space. The destroyer died without firing a shot. Admiral Tom Mitchell coordinated the battle from his flagship Defiance. He had fought in 3 wars before the Zephyrians arrived. He knew how to use terrain, timing, and surprise to win against larger forces. All ships, implement Tactic 7, he broadcast. The human ships began moving in patterns the Zephyrians had never seen. Instead of flying in formation, they scattered and regrouped randomly. Instead of fighting ship to ship, they worked in teams to surround and destroy single targets. The cargo ship Liberty Bell suddenly accelerated toward a Zephyrian cruiser. The aliens thought it was trying to ram them and prepared to destroy it. Instead, the Liberty Bell ejected its entire cargo bay. The bay was filled with automated mines that spread out and detonated around the cruiser. Zakfor watched his fleet falling apart. How are they doing this? Intelligence said they only had primitive weapons. His tactical officer was studying the sensor data. Commander, these ships are not what they appeared to be. The cargo hauler that just destroyed the Retribution has military-grade armor and weapon systems. The mining ships are using their equipment as weapons. Where did they get military technology? Zakfor demanded. He did not know that engineer Paula Stone was sitting in a hidden bunker on New Boston, watching everything through surveillance satellites. She had been waiting for this moment to activate the first phase of the Prometheus protocol. Begin Phase 1 activation, she said into her communicator. Across Zephyrian space, every piece of human-made technology suddenly came alive. Communication, relays that humans had built on alien worlds began broadcasting jamming signals. Navigation beacons started giving false coordinates. Life support systems in Zephyrian buildings began releasing sleeping gas instead of fresh air. On the Zephyrian, homeworld alien commanders found that their communication arrays had stopped working. The humans who maintained their equipment had vanished during the night. Computer systems began shutting down. Transportation networks failed. Back at the battle, Captain Sam Torres was pressing his advantage. The New Frontier and 5 other converted ships surrounded a Zephyrian heavy cruiser. Instead of exchanging fire at long range like civilized warriors, the humans moved in close and targeted specific systems. Take out their engines first, Sam ordered. Then their weapons. Then their life support. Make them suffer. The Zephyrian ship tried to retreat, but the human ships were faster and more maneuverable. They had been designed to look like slow cargo haulers, but hidden engines gave them speed that surprised their enemies. Major Linda Hayes received a priority message from Admiral Mitchell. Linda, we need to capture some of their ships intact. Intelligence wants to study their technology. Understood, Admiral. Beginning capture protocol. Her mining drones swarmed over another Zephyrian destroyer, but instead of cutting through the hull, they attached magnetic clamps and began dragging the ship toward the human fleet. The aliens inside were trapped, their engines disabled, their weapons offline. Zakfor realized his fleet was losing. All ships retreat to hyperspace jump point. We need reinforcements. But when his ships tried to retreat, they found their path blocked. The human orbital stations that they had ignored were now moving. Each station was actually a massive ship disguised as a stationary platform. They formed a wall between the Zephyrians and escape. Admiral Tom Mitchell opened a communication channel to the alien commander. Fleet Commander Zakfor, this is Admiral Mitchell. You came here to destroy us. Now you're trapped. Surrender your ships, and we'll let your crews live. Never, Zakfor replied. We are Zephyrian warriors. We do not surrender to inferior species. Your choice, Tom said calmly. Continue the attack. The battle continued for 6 more hours. When it ended, 42 Zephyrian ships had been destroyed. 21 had been captured intact. 7 had managed to escape to hyperspace, but their crews were traumatized by what they had witnessed. The humans had lost only 3 ships, and those had been evacuated before they were destroyed. Captain Sam Torres stood in the wreckage of his bridge. The New Frontier had taken damage, but she was still fighting. Around him, his crew was already making repairs. They had work to do. This was just the first battle. Admiral Mitchell, Sam reported. New Boston is secure. Enemy fleet eliminated or captured. What are our next orders? Tom Mitchell looked at the tactical display. More Zephyrian fleets were moving toward human space. They thought they were coming to help their defeated comrades. They had no idea they were walking into a trap prepared by a species that had been planning for this war since before they left their home planet. Prepare for Phase 2, Tom ordered. It's time to take the fight to them. Supreme War Chief Malthek slammed his 4 fists on the council table. The holographic reports from the battle at New Boston floated around him like angry ghosts. 42 ships destroyed, 21 captured, his entire advance fleet gone. How did this happen? He roared at his commanders. The humans were supposed to be weak. War Marshal Vexthal, who had delivered the original ultimatum, stood with his head lowered. Supreme War Chief, they were not what they appeared to be. Their cargo ships were disguised warships. Their mining equipment was weaponized. They fought like nothing we have seen before. Then we will show them real power, Malthek declared. Send the planet killer fleet. Deploy the biological weapons. We will burn every human world to ash. On the bridge of his dreadnought Eternal Conquest, Admiral Thexmar received the new orders. His ship was the size of a small moon, armed with weapons that could crack planets in half. Behind him followed 50 more ships of the same class, plus 200 support vessels. Set course for the human homeworld, he ordered. We will end this quickly. But Director Chris Morgan was already 3 steps ahead of them. From his command center on Luna, he watched the massive Zephyrian fleet moving through hyperspace. Every move they made was being tracked by human surveillance systems they didn't know existed. Colonel West, are your teams in position? He asked. Colonel, Diana West smiled from her position aboard a Zephyrian supply ship. She and her Special Forces team had been living undercover in the alien fleet for 2 years. They wore alien uniforms and spoke the language perfectly. All teams ready, Director. We've been planting surprises throughout their fleet for months. Diana's team had done more than just gather intelligence. They had sabotaged navigation systems, planted explosives in critical areas, and replaced key personnel with human agents. The Zephyrians thought they were being served by loyal alien crew members. In reality, half their support staff were humans. Dr. Frank Miller reviewed the psychological profiles his team had developed. The Zephyrians always fight the same way, he explained to the assembled commanders. They form battle lines. They exchange fire at long range. They follow ancient honor codes that make them predictable. What about these planet killer ships? Asked General Rodriguez. Big, slow, and designed to fight other ships that follow the same rules, Frank replied. They've never faced an enemy that thinks outside their expectations. Admiral Tom Mitchell was already positioning his forces for the next battle. The human fleet had grown to over 3,000 ships as more civilian vessels completed their military conversions. But he wasn't planning to meet the Zephyrians in open battle. Captain Stone, are the asteroid fields prepared? He asked. Captain Rachel Stone confirmed from her position in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. Every asteroid has been hollowed out and equipped with engines and weapons. We have 5,000 mobile weapons platforms ready to deploy. The Zephyrians would expect to find human ships waiting to defend Earth. Instead, they would face something completely different. Lieutenant Colonel Eric Davis monitored the alien communications from his intelligence ship. The Zephyrians were sending messages to their homeworlds, boasting about the crushing victory they would soon achieve. They still think they're fighting a conventional war, Eric reported. Their commanders are discussing battle formations and honor codes. They have no idea what's coming. When the Zephyrian planet killer fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Earth, Admiral Thexmar expected to see desperate human ships forming defensive lines. Instead, he saw nothing but empty space. Where are they? He demanded. His sensors officer studied the readings. I detect no large ships, Admiral. Only small debris and asteroids. Cowards, Thexmar sneered. They abandoned their homeworld. Begin planetary bombardment. The massive dreadnought charged its main weapon. Energy built up in the planet killer cannon. But before it could fire, the asteroids around them began to move. Captain Rachel Stone gave the signal. All units, execute asteroid storm. What the Zephyrians had dismissed as space debris suddenly revealed itself as the largest ambush in galactic history. 5,000 asteroids ignited their hidden engines and swarmed toward the alien fleet. Each one was armed with nuclear weapons and guided by artificial intelligence. Admiral Thexmar watched in horror as his massive ships were surrounded by attacking rocks. The planet-killer weapons were designed to destroy stationary targets, not thousands of small, fast-moving objects. Defensive fire, he ordered. Destroy those asteroids. But the human weapons were too small and too numerous. For every asteroid his ships destroyed, 10 more took its place. The nuclear explosions began lighting up space like deadly fireworks. Colonel, Diana West chose that moment to activate her sabotage. Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, explosions began occurring in engine rooms and weapon bays. Navigation systems failed. Life support began pumping knockout gas instead of oxygen. Diana, this is Director Morgan. Begin Phase 2. Diana's teams had spent months learning the alien computer systems. Now they turned those systems against their creators. Zephyrian ships began firing on each other as their targeting computers were hacked. Dreadnoughts collided as their navigation was corrupted. The Eternal Conquest shuddered as internal explosions rocked the ship. Admiral Thexmar realized too late that his crew had been infiltrated. Security teams to all critical areas, he ordered. Find the saboteurs. But it was too late. Lieutenant Colonel Eric Davis had been monitoring their communications, and human agents had been planted throughout their fleet. Every order was anticipated. Every response was countered. Captain Rachel Stone pressed her advantage. The asteroid swarm had crippled half the Zephyrian fleet. Now the real human ships emerged from behind the moon. They moved in formations the aliens had never seen, using tactics that broke every rule of civilized warfare. Dr. Frank Miller watched the battle from his analysis station. They're panicking, he reported. Their entire command structure is breaking down. They've never faced an enemy that adapts this quickly. The Zephyrians had prepared for a glorious battle between fleets. Instead, they found themselves fighting rocks, traitors, and an enemy that refused to follow any rules they understood. Admiral Tom Mitchell opened a communication channel to the alien commander. Admiral Thexmar, this is Admiral Mitchell. Your fleet is destroyed. Your homeworlds are next. Surrender now and we might let some of your people live. Never, Thexmar replied, but his voice shook with fear. The Zephyrian Empire will never surrender to animals. Then you've chosen the same fate as your ships, Tom replied calmly. The battle ended 6 hours later. The entire Zephyrian planet killer fleet was destroyed or captured. Not a single human world had been damaged. The aliens who had planned to exterminate humanity were now prisoners aboard human ships. Director Chris Morgan reviewed the final reports. The second phase of humanity's plan was complete. The Zephyrians had sent their most powerful weapons against Earth. Those weapons were now part of the human fleet. What's our next move? Asked Colonel West. Chris looked at the star map showing Zephyrian territory. Phase 3. We take the war to their homeworlds. It's time to show them what happens when you threaten the wrong species. The hunters were about to become the hunted. War Marshal Vexthul sat in chains aboard the human ship Defiance. The same alien who had laughed at Admiral Morrison's threats now stared at the floor with empty eyes. His proud uniform was torn and dirty. His forearms were bound with human restraints. Admiral Kate Morrison walked into the prisoner holding area. She looked exactly the same as she had during their first meeting, but now Vexthul flinched when he saw her. Hello again, War Marshal, Kate said calmly. I told you that. You had chosen death. I kept my promise. Vexthul looked up at her with fear in his eyes. What have you done to my people? Kate activated a holographic display. It showed the Zephyrian homeworlds. Human ships were in orbit around every planet. Alien cities were intact, but human flags flew over every government building. Your empire no longer exists, Kate said simply. Your fleets are destroyed or captured. Your worlds are under human control. Your government has surrendered unconditionally. The war had lasted only 6 months. The species that had conquered 47 other civilizations was now itself conquered. Captain Ryan Blake entered the room carrying a data pad. Admiral, the final numbers are ready. Kate took the pad and read from it. The Zephyrian Empire had 3,047 warships at the start of this conflict. 2,812 have been destroyed. 235 have been captured and are now part of the human fleet. Vexthul's voice was barely a whisper. How did you defeat us so completely? You made the same mistake as every bully in history, Kate replied. You thought being strong meant you could pick on anyone weaker than you. You never learned what to do when someone fights back. Dr. Lisa Parker joined them in the holding area. She had been studying the psychological effects of the war on captured Zephyrians. Her findings were disturbing. The entire Zephyrian species is suffering from trauma, she reported. They've developed what we call learned helplessness. The mention of humans causes panic attacks. Their children have nightmares about human soldiers. Good, Kate said without emotion. Fear will keep them from trying this again. The transformation of Zephyrian space had been swift and complete. General Alex Rodriguez had coordinated the occupation from his command ship. Human forces had taken control of every major world, space station and military facility in the former empire. The Zephyrians kept detailed records of every species they conquered, Alex reported during a briefing. We've contacted the survivors. 43 species want their independence restored. 4 species have been completely wiped out. Director Susan Walsh had been overseeing the integration of Zephyrian technology into human systems. Their ships are well built, but poorly designed for actual combat. Their weapons are powerful but inefficient. Their computers are advanced but vulnerable to infiltration. What about their other enemies? Kate asked. Commander Jake Sullivan brought up intelligence reports. The Zephyrians were at war with 6 other species when they attacked us. Those species are now asking to ally with humanity. Word is spreading that humans defeated the galaxy's strongest empire in 6 months. The speed of human victory had shocked every civilization in the galaxy. The Zephyrians had been feared for centuries. Now, they were a broken people living under human rule. Lieutenant Commander Ben Parker had been promoted to governor of the main Zephyrian world. His job was to rebuild their society under human guidance. They're cooperative now, he reported. Too cooperative. They're terrified to disobey any human order. We've had to assign psychologists to help them function normally. The psychological warfare had been more effective than any weapon. The Zephyrians had built their entire culture around being the strongest species in the galaxy. When humans proved stronger, their whole worldview collapsed. Dr. Frank Miller had studied this effect carefully. They defined themselves as predators, he explained. When they became prey, they didn't know how to be anything else. It's like their entire species has given up. Kate walked to the main viewing window of her ship. Outside, she could see the Zephyrian capital city. Human shuttles moved between the buildings. Human soldiers patrolled the streets. The proud alien empire had become a human protectorate. What happens now? Ryan asked. Now we rebuild, Kate replied. We'll teach them how to be productive members of galactic society instead of conquerors. It will take generations, but they'll learn. Admiral Tom Mitchell joined them at the window. His fleets were now the strongest military force in the galaxy. The other species are asking questions, he said. They want to know what humanity plans to do with all this power. Kate considered this. Humanity now controlled the territory of 48 different species. Human ships patrolled space lanes that had been Zephyrian trade routes. Human governors administered worlds across multiple star systems. We're not conquerors, she said finally. We're survivors. But the galaxy needs to understand something important. She activated the ship's communication system. Her message would be broadcast to every civilized world in the galaxy. This is Admiral Kate Morrison of the Human Federation, she began. 6 months ago, the Zephyrian Empire threatened to exterminate humanity. They gave us a choice between surrender and death. We chose a third option. The transmission reached hundreds of worlds. Alien leaders listened carefully to every word. Humanity desires peace with all species, Kate continued. We want trade, cooperation, and friendship. But let this be a lesson to any who would threaten us. We are not the weak young species you might think we are. She paused, looking directly into the camera. We are the children of Earth. We survived ice ages and plagues and wars. We learned to be survivors by facing extinction and refusing to die. If you come in peace, we will welcome you as friends. If you come in war, you will join the Zephyrians in learning what happens when you threaten the wrong species. The message ended. Across the galaxy, alien governments began revising their policies toward humanity. Trade delegations replaced military threats. Friendship treaties replaced conquest plans. Vexthal listened to the broadcast from his cell. When it ended, he looked up at Kate with something that might have been respect. We thought you were animals, he said quietly. No, Kate replied. You thought you were gods. We taught you the difference. The human ships began their journey home. Behind them, the former Zephyrian Empire began learning to live in a galaxy where humanity was no longer the newest species, but the strongest one. The war was over. Humanity had won, and the galaxy would never forget the lesson they had taught. Children across the galaxy would grow up hearing stories about the humans, the species that smiled before they fought, the species that turned anything into a weapon, the species that never forgot a threat. The universe had learned that when a human promises death, they always keep their word.